In terms of what's on my desk at the moment, it's a really diverse workload. The split tends to be between advice on ongoing development schemes and new instructions, and I act for both private and public sector clients. So in terms of ongoing development schemes, I tend to act for lots of developers, quite often on larger schemes when they're collaborating with other developers, and there's always issues cropping up to advise on those. It's an ongoing process. In terms of other clients, I quite often act for sellers of land, and even after you've disposed of the land, quite often there are post-completion obligations to follow up, keep an eye on things such as overage and also infrastructure delivery. So I've got a number of those on at the moment. And also the good news is this week I've had a fresh instruction on a disposal of land for a client, 40-acre site by way of an option, and I'm really excited to be getting on and doing that. Linked with all that, I'm part of the team that's recently set up the Gowling's Leeds office. That's a new experience for us all. We're really excited about setting the office up, but it's fair to say that all in all, it's a very varied and busy workload. In terms of things keeping me awake at the moment, I try to sleep well, but inevitably there are a few things. I think you can't get away from it. There's been a slight cooling in deal activity over the past 6 months or so. I think the reasons for that really relate to wider economic issues. In addition to that, we're seeing, and as part of that, we're seeing higher interest rates. We're also seeing delays in the supply chain. So it's just contributing to a slightly different environment at the moment. The fundamentals are strong. People need homes and they want to buy homes, but it's a case of just working through this economic cycle. I think probably one of the constants that's slightly frustrating in our job is working through the planning process. It's an expensive process and it can be time consuming for clients, and increasingly it can lead to uncertain outcomes. This is impacting on deals and clients' approach to deals. Clients are being quite careful about timeline commitments and also increasingly look at the viability of the projects they take on. The government's recently introduced some proposed changes to the planning process which will give a stronger hand to objectors to schemes. So again, these are things that we have to live with and we have to work through, but occasionally they keep me awake at night. In terms of what's next in the housing sector, well, we're 2 years away from a general election. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see what the parties come up with in terms of practical and potentially effective measures, hopefully, to address the undersupply in housing. So I think that's on everybody's radar to see what they come up with in that regard. There has been, since the 1980s, an undersupply in housing year on year against government housing targets. So to be frank, I think it's going to be difficult to see how that's in itself is going to be addressed alone without either some radical measures which could potentially involve additional public sector intervention. In the more immediate term, I think there are going to be opportunities in towns and cities. We've seen the legacy of COVID means that less people are in offices. We've also seen a shift of retail into online shopping. This is meaning there are lots of obsolete premises for their original purpose in towns and cities. These are already being repurposed for student living, but I can see that the rental market will have opportunities there to repurpose those buildings for rent, and there will be initiatives flowing from that. In terms of the next big opportunity, well, I think fundamentally the backbone of housing delivery is going to be family 3 to 4 bedroomed houses. But I think going forward we're going to see the sustainability agenda becoming more and more to the fore in that regard. At the moment it's being driven by the government, but I would also anticipate that it will also be driven by consumer demand. Everyone's experienced the high energy costs over the past year or so, and I think managing those costs for households is going to be a big issue in the future going forwards. But I don't think that in itself is going to address the need for new housing, so I would imagine an increased momentum on other forms of housing delivery such as build to rent and modular homes and senior living will also be areas which will increase momentum over the next few years. In terms of my job, the things I love, well, I think fundamentally it's all about clients and colleagues. the work that I'm involved in tends to be medium to long term, so you get a chance to work with clients closely over a period of time, and also as you do that you get to know their businesses and understand their businesses better. All of those things help us give them a better service, and it's enjoyable. I also like the fact that what we're involved in is something tangible. It's about bricks and mortar. It's about the environment that we live in. And I've been in practice a number of years now, but I always do get a kick when I drive by a scheme in the region where I live, which is Yorkshire, that I've been involved in. And, you know, I get the chance to perhaps tell my wife once more about my involvement in that scheme. Not that she always shares my level of enthusiasm.